Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. 2 videos in one day. I need to sit. I've been on the go since 6:30 this morning, and I'm glad that I'm doing this 2 days early. I'm preparing for my move in 2 days because I still have a lot to do. I'm pretty good, but I still have a lot to do. You can see one of my suitcases there in the background. I really have moving down to a science at this stage. Every tote is going to be labeled with what's in it and what room it needs to go in. And yay! So that's happening. The countdown is on. And I'm go, go, go. But, I need to pause. I need to pause and I need to take a break. So I'm going to sit down and move ahead in our next video in our series of chakra addictions videos. And move into the sacral chakra. So I am. And I might post it and let it upload for tomorrow and do its thing. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Spirit says. Spirit says. So the sacral chakra, I'm wearing orange. I dug out my orange before I shut up my suitcase there. The Vedic term is Swadhisthana or Swadhisthana. I don't know. I'm not fluent in Vedic language. But it does translate to, so you should know, the dwelling place of the self. Dun, dun, dun. And doesn't that kind of make sense if you think about it? Because our womb space holds our inner child in there. Okay, so when you're doing a lot of inner child work, it's really useful to place your hands right on top, just below your belly button. Also interesting to note, the psoas muscle that wraps around the top of your hip and goes down into the hip flexors here is known to be the seat of the soul. So yes, we've got a lot happening in this hippie area that is all about our sense of self. So let's look a little bit deeper, shall we? The life lesson or purpose here is all about sexuality, work, and your vocation, and physical desires. Desire. I'm hearing a couple songs. I got desire. I don't know who that's by. It's a dance song. Anyways, let's move on, shall we, from our desires and focus our attention on to the right. Okay, the right that's associated here. And the right is your right to feel. Did you know that you had a right to feel? Oh my good golly, Miss Molly. We've been told our whole lives that we're not supposed to feel, or we're only supposed to feel certain emotions. But you got a right to feel all of them. Doesn't matter which ones they are. You got a right to feel all of them, because the process of transmuting through the lower ones brings you up into pleasure. So you have a right to have pleasure in your life. And it almost kind of seems like pleasure is just beat out of you in this life. So this right for pleasure, we're grasping on anything and everything to give us a quick fix of pleasure. Because our life in general, and I've mentioned in another video, is barely even human. That was the solar plexus that I was talking about. The whole system is set up for work. Where's the pleasure, I do know that the Spanish culture, and I do love them. I love Mexico. I would love to go to Spain. I've never been there, but I have been to Portugal. But the Latin culture incorporates, a lot more pleasure into their life. They have a siesta in the afternoon, time for nap time, which gives them another boost of energy for pleasure time after. Okay, so first they have a siesta and then they have a fiesta. Where's that in our culture? We need a little bit more siestas and fiestas to counterbalance all the work. The element associated here is that of water. Now, I did a really fun video a good many moons ago about the sacral chakra in relation to water, and I had props. I love props. Props. It was using water balloons, and I'm going to put a link to that at the end of this video because it's fun. It's fun. It's a visual way to see what I'm talking about in regards to the emotional centers in relation to water. So our waters store all our emotions. I talked about it the other day, like a big, huge swimming pool right in our room space. And what does your swimming pool look like? Is it a pleasure center? Is it an ever overflowing infinity pool, or is it a mud pit? You know, what kind of emotional status is going on down in here? Because when we repress it all, it becomes stagnant, muddy water, you know, it's not in flow. The symbolic connection here enables us to generate a personal identity and protective psychological boundaries. Dun, dun, dun. Boundaries. That's a key word. I'm going to say it again. Boundaries. Many of us grew up in households where there was no such thing as a boundary. When you are enmeshed, where is the boundary? There's no boundary. There's no sense of personal space or personal identity or personal anything. It's where were you? Tell me everything. I'm going to interrogate you. I'm going to find out all the information. You have no psychological boundaries whatsoever. You're not entitled to your own opinions, own pleasures, own nothing. I need to know everything. You know, very invasive. Very invasive. So if you are enmeshed in a household that doesn't allow for natural separation to occur, you have never learned a boundary, perhaps. If you are in the empath camp, right, you have no boundaries because you need to constantly be reading the room and reading the people, which means you're invading their personal space. Okay, you're invading their personal space energetically when you're like, but I'm sensing that they're sick, and I'm sensing that they're disturbed, and I'm sensing that they're stressed. And so I need, okay, so in the shadow side, I need to heal them so I can feel better instead of just removing yourself and feeling better, right? So that is a dysfunctional. That's toxic, you know? I'm constantly people pleasing because if I make you better, then I'm better. So we don't believe that about ourselves. We just think we're super kind. You know, when it's in the shadow and we're not seeing it, it's like, I'm just a super nice, helpful person. Yes, but did they ask for your help? You got to wonder, did they ask for your help? Because sometimes when you intervene and you cross a boundary and you offer advice, unsolicited advice that hasn't been offered, you're going to really irritate a lot of people because they're like, I didn't ask. I didn't ask for advice. If I need advice, I'll ask for it. But we learn to like just steamroll or right on through, zero boundaries because I can fix you and I can make your problems better. And when you do that, you're depriving the other person of their own life lessons. So they become even more enmeshed with you and need you so that they can function in the world. You're also you're robbing them of their opportunity to clear their karma. So their soul came down to clear a bunch of karma, which meant learning some hard lessons. And every time you swoop in to save them, what you're actually doing is prolonging them clearing their karma, prolonging them, delaying the lessons that their soul needs to learn. So if they're learning some icky soul lessons like addiction, and you're like, oh, if you just did XYZ, you'd be fine. And the person doesn't do XYZ, and then you get irritated and you get your own emotions because you're like, you need to do this so that I can feel safe. So that's when we need to go, oh, wait a second here. There's a boundary being crossed here. I am like interjecting myself into them and trying to fix their problems for them, in which case it's only delaying the process of them learning for themselves. So the best thing you can do is go, oh, okay, while you're learning your life lessons, you're clearing your karma. I find it very upsetting to be around. I don't know if you've ever had an addict in your life, but there's only so much that you can take where it is no longer helpful. It is actually enabling. And so the best thing you can do is to walk away so that they can learn and hit their rock bottom. It is the hardest thing ever because you can love them with all your heart and they may be your family and you want to help them, but they have an addiction of some kind or a toxic behavior of some kind. And if it's upsetting to you, move you. You can't move them, but you can move you. So you move yourself away from it, creating a healthier, wider boundary, and that's a good thing. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have narcissistic people that have zero boundaries. They don't have any boundaries because they like to interrogate you so that they have information about your emotional intelligence that they can then turn and weaponize and use against you. So they're going to ask you constantly inquisitive questions. And at first you might think, oh, wow, they're so interested in me. They just want to get to know me. They just love me so much. They just want to know everything about me. And then when they know everything about you, they can perform some pretty wicked psychological warfare. So we need to have psychological boundaries. We need to have physical boundaries. This is where we start to learn what a boundary is. Am I allowed to close my door and clock it and block people? Do what you need to do to learn boundaries. Boundaries is a necessary learning on this awakening path for both camps. Doesn't matter which energy you've been in. If your boundaries are too wide, you need to learn how to let a few people in. And if your boundaries are too non-existent, you need to learn to erect some boundaries so that you can take care of your own emotional well-being uninfluenced by somebody else's up and downs. So if they're going up and down and it's upsetting you because they're going up and down and you're trying to control the situation because they're going up and down, move yourself away and sit yourself down and go, oh, dear God, please, I give this to Mother Mary. Mary, please watch over them. Please watch over them because I can't do it anymore. I cannot do it anymore. The symbol here is the symbol of a triangle, okay? So, or a pyramid, but what I like to look at it is an inverted triangle, okay? Because it's the womb space. Look, the womb space is an inverted triangle. It's got the little ovaries sticking out. It's an inverted triangle, which is representative of the soul self. Because at the very bottom is you. There's myself. And we learn through the connection of the triangle at the tippy top of mother energy and father energy. And this is representation of the greater. Okay, so Father God, Mother Earth, greater, our connection to the divine. And if we have a cut in the triangle energy between ourselves and our mother and not a good relationship there, then we're not going to feel grounded. We're not going to feel connection to the divine mother. Okay, and so we need to work on that, the mummy wounds, and re-establish a connection with mother energy. And on the opposite side, the father energy, if we don't have a good relationship with our father, if our father was absent, abandoned us, was rageful, was an alcoholic, that's like cutting the line, the cord of connection in between you and father energy, which you and Father Sky, Father God, Father, and masculine energy. Okay, so feminine energy, masculine energy. These are in our immediate circle is representation of the divine. Now, if your parents weren't in their divine energy, and whose were? If your parents weren't in divine energy, you didn't have a good example, and so there would have been a connection problem to the higher up, to spirit, okay? So this triangle space is something that we need to work on so we can clear and reconnect to the divine for the purposes of co-creation. Now, I'm going to get in that because the sense here is that of taste. That tastes good. That's some pleasure. Taste. And then the action associated is procreation, or in its divine state, co-creation. So procreation is all about, our ability to reproduce. Okay? And when we are working in alignment with the divine, we can co-create and reproduce the life that we want to have with more pleasure because we're in alignment with the divine. And so we say that our ego self goes, I want to go live in a trailer park. And the divine goes, no, you deserve better. Here, okay. But then you get yourself in alignment and then the divine moves you. moves you to something better. So then we're co-creating a whole new reality for ourselves that's leading us more and more into pleasure. But you have to do the healing work to be able to receive that. Because also, you know, like a triangle upside down, it's receiving energy. And if it's all gunked up and full up, then how are you going to receive anything? So there's a lot of receiving that needs to happen. We need to learn about. It's not just always about doing and giving. It's about that feminine energy of sitting still and receiving. Okay, the womb space receives the seed and creates the child, and there we go, procreation. The womb space also receives the energy that trickles down, and in an interesting way, because we're learning in this round of videos from Spirit, thank you Spirit, that we go from the heart. So we've received divine passion, divine inspiration into our heart space, and then we have action, and we're like, okay, what are the steps that I need to take to make this happen? So feminine energy, masculine energy, and then we move into the throat. And we're like, I'm going to talk about this. I have something to say about this. I'm going to do something about this. And then we move down into the womb space, into the sacral. And we're like, okay, I can do this. I can create this. This is in creation, right? So this is really, really important that we have like a functioning sacral chakra so we can create the life we want. Otherwise, not going to work so much. So if there's a blockage of old emotions that haven't been processed, we're blocking our own capacity to co-create with the divine, because it's all full of mud and gunk and whatever. Oh, I don't want to swim in that swimming pool with the dead rat floating by. No, we got to clear all that out. How do we clear it out? We feel our feelings. We go back to the last video that I just posted about the throat chakra, and we start standing in our authenticity, and we start processing our emotions one at a time. One at a time. I did a video called The Physical Manifestation of Disease, or something along those lines, in regards to the throat chakra, as I said, about 3-ish years ago. Go check that out. I'll link that at the end of this if you want to know more about what happens when you don't clean out the gunk, when you don't have the emotions, when you don't have healthy boundaries, when you don't, okay? So go over there and check out that video, because it's got very important information for you related to the sacral. But let's talk more about the emotions, because this, as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is actually the second on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is about safety. So when we feel safe, emotionally safe, we have the ability to express ourselves. We have the ability to co-create in a safe state. But if we're not safe and we're fearful and we're anxious and we're this, that, and the other, there's not really much safe. So the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is all about psychological safety. So even this, as though it's down here in your gut, you know, I got a gut feeling, is an expression that means a lot. It means a lot. You got to listen to that stuff, because this is what's giving us EQ. Okay. Everybody talks about IQ like it's the most important thing on the universe. But if you have a high intelligent quotient and you've got a low emotional quotient, you're going to be having challenges. We need to have a high emotional quotient as well as a high intelligent quotient. And then we're getting like really more and more functioning in the world as a functioning system. So what kind of emotional quotient do you have? That means having the ability to process through your emotions in an effective and clear way. You can talk about them. Hey, I'm having a really irritable day today. That's just reality. It's not getting caught up in them. It's not repressing them. It's not blowing up with them. So learning how to like manage your emotions is part of the functioning of learning how to be human. The addictions that are associated here in the sacral chakra is alcohol. Fancy that. It's liquor. It's liquid. It's all about the water. Although you sometimes need to drink more water when you're drinking the alcohol. Sex and heroin. Okay, so let's talk about those three for a little bit, because alcohol gives you what? Pleasure. So it's that quick fix instead of the long-term gratification. It's the quick-term gratification of, oh, I'm in a social setting. I feel really uncomfortable. Ooh, couple of shots of tequila later. Woo, dancing on the table. Right? But the problem with alcohol, sorry guys, but the problem with alcohol is you are inviting in bad energy. Bad energy. It's called spirits for a reason. It's called spirits for a reason. That's why you behave like crazy person sometimes when you're out drinking and you black out. And then what's happening? Because you're not in control. You've ingested down, you've allowed in spirit. So you're no longer running the show. Your higher self is no longer driving the bus. Instead, you've let in external energies come in and make you behave like a twit. You know, and sure, society like downplays it like it's fun. Look, girls gone wild. Florida party. But how fun is it? How fun is it when you wake up in the morning with the hangover going, oh my God, sorry, what did I do? What did I do? Oh, geez, what did I do? What do you feel? What's happening in your feeling center when you've consumed too much alcohol? It's not good. It's not good. The mortification that you might feel is hard to process. So then you have to go through a detoxification process. And what you're really doing is like detoxifying negative energies, negative entities that you've just allowed yourself to invite in. It's like opening the door and wondering why you have bats flying around or moths flying around, because you're inviting them in. You are 100%. You know how they have like that rule with vampires? They stand at the door. Hello, beautiful lady. Oh, would you like to come in? Great. Right? You're inviting them in. So on an awakening path, alcohol's got to go. I'm sorry. If you have managed to maintain it so far, thus far, there will come a time. I will put money on it. Okay? Gambling, it doesn't fall into this category, but I will put money on it that there will come a time where it no longer resonates with you. Your soul self, when your soul self gets into like much more power and strength, is like, no. And what your soul self will do is exactly what it did for me, is it makes drinking so miserable an experience that it's no longer pleasurable. So why are you doing something that's no longer pleasurable? You know, like I would, in the last few years that I drank, which was very rarely, like I just rarely could even think about drinking. But when I did drink, I drank too much, as I always did, because I was all binge drinking. I usually forgot to eat, so I was just drinking on an empty stomach, and then I would get sick as a dog. Sick as a dog. But I would have a hangover before I had the pleasure. And then I would be in the case of the stupids for about 5 to 7 days, just like walking around in a little bit of a daze and confused and, you know, possessed by dark energies of just ick, right? I don't like to use the word possessed, but I'm going to throw it in there because that's kind of what it is, because you're inviting in icky energies. So now the idea of drinking alcohol is so hard no, is kind of gross to me. I don't even want to be around it. I don't want to be around people who are drinking it. They're unpredictable. They excuse their behavior all the time as being no big deal. And it is a big deal. And if you're sober around drinking people, it's very not pleasurable. It's very not pleasurable. They're sharper. They're snappier. They're, you know, it's just no. It's just a hard no. So let's talk about sex addiction. And it's no wonder to me that on this awakening path, we're put in a period of time out and like celibacy. And I've known people that have tried to keep dating through their awakening, and they're like, everything breaks down. It doesn't work. I just can't. No, nah. Yeah, because we're put into like a penalty box and said, you know, no, you need to take time to think on your own, because most of the culture, most of society is sex addicts now. We use that as instant gratification. We've got all these wonderful apps where you can just meet up with somebody instantaneous. Again, with the instantaneous gratification instead of long-term gratification. You're swiping this way and swiping that way, getting an instant hit of, yeah, and then you meet up and you have one-night stands or a lot of promiscuous activities, unfaithfulness within your marriage. And, it's socially acceptable. It's okay. Everybody's doing it. But what you're doing on an energetic level is plugging your system into like this dude's computer and that dude's computer and that dude's computer. And you're energetically downloading all of the viruses that are on their computer. So not only are you putting your physical body at risk with potential viruses and this, that, and the other, energetically, you're also exchanging energies. So if you're having a one-night stand with some dude or girl that you don't know, and they have a lot of like negative energies and entities in them and dark shadowy sides to themselves that they haven't done any healing work, and you're exchanging energetically, that's gross. That's gross. You might as well roll down with a dog that has fleas and then wonder why you're bitten, because energetically you're exchanging stuff. So on my awakening journey, I've been celibate now since 2021. I've been celibate since 2021. And that was like non-optional. When I went into service of God and surrendered to God, God was like, no. So I didn't even bother looking or dating. And as I've been going through my own purification process, I had to do a lot of healing work around my own sexuality. And I'm not shaming or blaming or, judging anybody, because I myself participated in the societal expectation that, hey, sex is good. Just go have sex with anybody. So when I was younger, I used sex as a means to try to like bring in a relationship, thinking that this is the way, the tool, don't I have to be sexy to lure? Like, think of that word, lure. When you go fishing, you catch something and you reel it in. I need to lure somebody in with sexuality instead of presenting myself as I am. So they're already getting like a mask, because we doll ourselves up in our like nightwear and get our lips all red and puckered up, and we lure them in thinking, okay, going to get relationship now. And then when we wonder why what we lure in is like icky individuals, because they're not looking for a relationship. They're looking to get the leg over. That's what they're looking for. And so I had to like sit and go, oh, geez, man, that was so gross. Why did I do that? And I sat in shame for a little bit, and then I sat in like guilt for a little bit, and I sat in other like, humiliation. That was a good one that I sat in for a while, but I sat in all the emotions and I transmuted it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to feel like a little bit of compassion for myself, because I did the best I can with what I knew at the time. And with my history in my childhood of the things that happened to me because somebody else had a sex addiction, right? So inappropriate things happened to me. And so I learned the lesson that is like toxic sexuality far too young for my soul self, for my even human self to comprehend. And so we have this long-standing history of inappropriate sexual behavior with children. And it programs you at a very young age to become indoctrinated into like, this is how people love me. This is what I need to get people to love me. And so we have, from the time we're way too young to know anything, to have the conscious ability to understand healthy sexuality, we're already programmed with inappropriate sexual behaviors. And so this is like a huge problem that needs a lot of discussion, because I'm telling you, the amount of people that have sexual assault wounds, molestation wounds, is far greater than what we talk about. It's very hush-hush, and we would like to convince ourselves that it's just random people out in Hollywood that these things are happening to. I'm telling you it's not. It's in every community, everywhere, and more people that you know have had this experience. And the more we talk about it, we open up about it, we create safe containers for people to like tell the truth about it, the more people are going to be able to process through this root cause of something that can manifest and turn into a really, really bad addiction. Okay, because it's the addiction of misprogramming mixed with bad boundaries, mixed with not having emotional safety or security, and not being able to communicate your wounds as a young child. And all, it's like a perfect storm to create sexual misconduct, and as well, you know, these porn addictions, because I need immediate release. You know, I'm going to just rip the Band-Aid off of this and talk about this for a minute, because I have nothing but empathy, because men are taught at a very young age, boys don't cry. So they're indoctrinated to believe that their emotional center, this center, is not something safe to communicate as a boy. So they hold it in, and what happens? They need to release that somehow. So of course they're going to get into porn addiction, because it's a way to release that liquid. Okay, so we've got stored liquid, water element emotion stored in the sacrum. And then we offer them as a release instead of allowing them to emote effectively and develop emotional intelligence. Instead, we hand them a quick fix and say, here, look at this magazine, look at this video. Then you can release, and afterwards, oh, I feel better. I feel better. That stress that I was having, that anxiety that I was having, I feel better. And so it easily can become an addiction when you're not allowed to emote. So when we start training men, or allowing men for that matter, to emote, and be careful, because, you know, a lot of women may say they want a man who has the capacity for emotion. But when it actually happens, it might be a little bit like, oh, wait, what's going on? So this programming runs deep. It doesn't just run into the masculine psyche that says, I'm not allowed to emote. It runs into the unconscious psyche of the feminine as well, that says men aren't allowed to emote. So then when we actually have an emotive man, a man who is sensitive, listen and watch. Be very, very careful that we listen and watch as we allow them to step more and more and more into a balance of their own feminine energy, so they're able to release that we don't judge them, that we don't say something, that we don't react. Okay? So we need to learn how to hold containers for men to emote. Men need to create containers for other men to emote, you know, men's talking circles, men's healing groups, where emotions and allowing emotions is allowed to occur. And then you're going to see a massive decline in the amount of alcoholism, and the amount of sex addictions are going to plummet, because they're no longer needed. Men are allowed now to communicate their emotional needs. Their emotional needs becomes valid. Heroin is another addiction that can easily come into this area here. So I personally have no experience with heroin. If you have had experience with heroin, this too needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. You know, we need to start discussing the hard shit. Okay, we need to start getting into the muck and having difficult conversations that nobody wants to have. Difficult conversations about alcoholism and the root cause of it and the traumas underneath it. Difficult conversations about sex, sexuality, divine, sacred sexuality, and see what the difference between those things are. You know, toxic sexuality is thriving and alive and well. Sex sells, baby. And sacred sexuality is it's not even there. It's a work in progress. Okay, it's a work in progress. And at the present moment in time, I think it makes perfect sense that God has said, okay, divine feminines, you sit in there, time out. Divine masculines, you sit in there, time out. And there is a time out, there's a division. Okay, there's a division between a lot of people are in singledom. And there's a need for that, because everybody needs to sit in their muck to unfuck and then gunk out that swimming pool and get themselves both into purity before you can come back into a state of like understanding each other from integrity, from authenticity, from honoring self, from having an emotional intelligence. That means I can express and communicate my emotions on both sides. So neither is running and neither is over demanding, and both are sitting in a place seeing eye to eye, saying, okay, let's have a forthright discussion. Well, how's this going to work for you? And how's that going to work for me? And, what is it going to look like? And what are my needs? And what do I need to work on? Everybody's a work in progress. Everybody's a work in progress. And we've got a lot of work to do on helping society as a whole let go of the stigma attached to emoting for both men and women, for society in general. Like if you emote sadness for too long, you're called a depressive. If you emote anxiety too long, you're called anxious. If you emote both of them, you're called bipolar. If you emote trauma, maybe you're called narcissistic. We've got all these labels that we put on people, and let's rip off the labels and let's start allowing people to be human again, which means to have emotions. All of the emotions need to be expressed. We have to learn how to have emotions, how to have them, not that they're wrong and judgment and that's bad and you need to be high vibes only and pull yourself out of it and nasty and judgment and shaking your fingers at people and like, just change your thinking. A lot of like uncompassionate approaches. Humans need to learn how to emote again. If humans do learn to emote again, we're going to have far less addictions, because you can finally talk about what happened to you when you were a child. You can finally talk about in a safe community, about your sacred rage. There's a safe container to talk about like the time you went crazy without fear of further stigmatization happening to you. We have to allow and learn how to emote. We have to. We simply have to. That is how humanity is going to escalate up into like a truthful, authentic, pleasurable state of being. Not a part-time one that goes like up and down. You go out on Friday and you're having a high and it's so great. And then Saturday you feel like shit and you're feeling horrible about yourself. And then you go out on Saturday and you meet some dude or woman and you're like, whoa, yeah. And then you're having a great time. And then you wake up in the morning and you look at them and you go, ooh, gross. Ew, gross. Why did I do that? Oh, so high and low. So we're riding this roller coaster of highs and lows, but we're not in any sense of like genuine pleasure, genuine joy, because we've disconnected from that. Why have we disconnected from it? Let's go to the root, okay? So the developmental stage here is 6 months to 2 years. This is when we start to explore the world through our sensory experiences. We sensate the world. We stick our toe in our mouth. We're sticking everything in our mouth. We're touching, we're grabbing, we're tasting. My toe. We're touching, we're tasting, and all of this to help us, develop, well, what do I like and what do I not like? So we're learning likes and dislikes. So we're learning about ourselves as an individual, as our own person, through our pleasures and our unpleasures. I don't like that. That smells. I love this. It feels soft. So we learn through the sensory experiences what brings us pleasure, our right to have pleasure. Locomotion. We learn to start crawling. We learn to start walking. It means we learn to start movement. What movement means, what movement feels like, sensing ourselves in the world around us through movement. We learn that we're separate from the symbiotic fusion of our parents. At least we're supposed to. Remember those boundaries that we're supposed to be learning? This is when we crawl 5 feet away from mama. This is when we walk, in the park to the swings. All by ourselves. And so we're learning that, hey, I have a little bit of individuation that's happening. It gets more developed in the higher chakras in later developmental stages. But at the beginning, it's like, oh, I'm allowed to be me. And then I run back to mama. And then I run away from mama. And then I run back to mama. And then I run away from mama. And so I'm learning that it's safe, that I'm distancing myself safely. But if you're enmeshed with somebody psychologically, you don't get to where's the freedom? Where's the freedom that should be cultivated, which means I get to have my own pleasure, right? I can remember 2 kids growing up that came to visit neighbors of mine, and they literally sat, each of them, and this would be about age 12. They literally sat on one side of their mother, each of them, and they did not leave. That was it. They were stuck there. Because they didn't feel, safe in the world for me to go out and seek my own pleasure. So the life cycle, when we learn these lessons in ages 6 to 2, okay, that it's safe to sense, the world is a safe place that I can sense the world around me. I can taste things. I can enjoy things. I can start to have fun. Between the ages of 8 and 14, we really start applying those lessons of what is pleasure. This is when we make decisions. I want to take a dance class. I want to go to the movies with my friends. These are pleasurable things. I want to eat this food. I want to eat that food. I like this clothes. So you're supposed to, in a healthy environment between the ages of 8 and 14. So think back to yourself between the ages of 14 and see, how much, this is when puberty starts. So this is when you're shifting out of that, connection to parents, and you're wanting to create a little bit of more of your own adult dome. The spark of maturity is starting to grow in you. And so you want to do your own thing. You want to do your own thing. And this repeats between the ages of 57 and 63, sorry. So the identity that's supposed to be forming at these natural developmental stages is our emotional intelligence. Okay, so our emotional identity, who we are as a person in that regard, and how we obtain self-gratification. So if in an earlier stage, we weren't taught gratification through our parents of self-soothing and all these other things, and we were left to our own devices, then we never learned self-gratification. We never learned to self-soothe. We never learned long-term gratification, so we became graspy at everything and anything as close to us as possible. So immediate gratification, oh my God, shot of tequila, there you go. Immediate gratification, turn on a porn channel and there you go. And so these things come about because we never learned how to self-soothe ourselves and take care of our pleasure. Listen to our inner child. Do something fun. Maybe what you really need is an art class. Maybe what you really need is to promote inner child connection and start listening to your inner child. Maybe you need a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So when you start listening and connecting and doing more and more inner child work, okay, so this is when we really deep dive into inner child work. And there's lots of amazing books out there that do inner child work. And really at the end of the day, I think a lot of times just, sitting with your inner child and asking, beginning a conversation, what can I give you right now that you didn't get then? Or visualize, it's an NLP technique to visualize what you would say to your own child, if or imaginary or real, in any given situation, and then give or do that for yourself in your adult state. I recently bought myself some Play-Doh kind of stuff, modeling clay, because I just wanted to sit here and let my inner child play. Just play for no other reason than to play. So a really good way to help you with addictions, one of the cures that you can utilize to help you with these particular addictions is learn to play again. What is fun? I don't know. I haven't had fun in a really long time on this awakening journey. Fun has been hard pressed. So I got myself some modeling clay. I'm going to take a martial arts class. Is it going to be fun? I don't know. Maybe, but I'm going to try it. Okay, I'm going to try it. So try things that, you never got to try. There's some parents that are constantly driving their kids from this to that, to this to that, every activity under the sun. And then there's some kids that don't get any activities. So maybe because you were driven to 1,000,001 activities, your idea of fun is Netflix and chill. Or maybe if you never got anything and you were shoved in front of a TV and you never got to experience anything, what you want to do is try downhill skiing. So what are some of the things you wanted to do as a kid that you didn't get to do that you thought were fun? Take up painting. Take up ballet. Take up, belly dance. Take up frisbee. Take up a sport. Anything that's going to bring you a little bit of more fun in your life, and I mean genuine fun, not fun reliant upon alcohol. If your fun has to rely upon alcohol, that's not genuine fun. Okay, that is stimulated fun, but it's not genuine fun. So let's find what fun is. Let's find fun. Fun! Where are you hiding, fun? Let's find some fun. I'm going to challenge you on this mission today that you and I, for the month of February, I want reports back, have done something fun. Okay? That you've never done before. Report back to me what you found was fun. The demon energy that is associated here is guilt. Okay? And I know lots of situations where toxic family uses guilt as a means to keep you enmeshed. So you're not individuated and you're not allowed to go out and have your fun. And so, maybe for you, Thanksgiving, it would be way more fun to go to Hawaii. And your family's like, well, we're your family. We always have Thanksgiving here at your Aunt Stella's house. So you need to come here because but that's not fun. So this year, the year of the horse, we're going to say, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to create a boundary. I don't want to come home this year to Thanksgiving. This year, I'm going to Hawaii so that I can learn to surf, right? Pick you this year. Pick you this year and don't let the guilt trips work, okay? Because when the guilt trips work, and we can guilt ourselves. So this is it. When you've been wrangled in, and I'm thinking of wild horses out having fun, yay, whee, horse energy, and you've been wrangled in, and you're in a corral, and somebody's got a whip. So guilt is like a whip that somebody's whipping you with. And make sure that it's not you that's holding the whip and whipping yourself and feeling guilty. Because it becomes a program. It becomes an automatic response. If you were raised constantly with a whip to pull you into alignment with the family structure, and, a lot of families do this, then you indoctrinate yourself to the programming that is guilt, and then you go through life going, oh, well, I really should do this. It's Christmas. I should do this. I should do that. I shouldn't do this. I should do that. And so we feel guilty. Oh, I couldn't go to Hawaii. If I go to Hawaii, I'm going to feel so guilty. I'm going to feel so guilty. So I better go. So guilt is like a control apparatus that makes you do things that aren't pleasurable for you. And so you're negating self, the center of the emotions. You're feeling miserable. Your emotional center is all off. And you're not doing what brings you joy. So when you see guilt raises its ugly head and gets in your face. When you see guilt, you say to guilt, no, I'm not falling for you this time. This time, I'm going to sit with my inner child, and I'm going to give my inner child what it wants, and it wants to go to Hawaii. Okay, so I'm going to, again, call up mom, dad. Sorry, can't come. I'm going to Hawaii. Sorry, you say to your friends, I can't come to the bar this weekend. I'm jumping out of an airplane. Sorry, I can't do this because I'm stepping into pleasure, which means, I don't have time to like be on Tinder all weekend or Grindr or any other apps because I'm going hiking. I'm going camping. Okay. So find the things that are fun for you and don't let guilt pull you back in. And people will want to pull you back in. Okay. When you quit drinking, others around you don't want you to quit drinking because they're still drinking. So they would rather like do a guilt trip. Oh, come on. What, you're not fun anymore? Oh, you think you're better than us? They're going to say all kinds of things to pull you back down to their level, because when you quit, what you're doing is you're shining a light on the drinking and saying, I'm better than the drinking. I don't need the drinking, which then makes them feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me because like I'm still drinking. But I'm not seeing it, so I'm still consumed with this demon energy, and I'm going to utilize guilt to try to pull them back in. So when you quit drinking, it's very unlikely you'll be able to stay friends with alcoholics or people who still drink. Not only because the behavior is so unpleasant to be around, but because they will try to guilt you into drinking, to come down and join them where they are. The dark passion here is greed. It's greed because emotionally I feel so disconnected from my emotions and I want instant gratification. So I want more money. I want more power. I want more fame. I want more attention. I want more because I'm feeding this beast inside of me. And I'm trying to like constantly get myself into a state of pleasure. And it never lasts. You go out shopping and you buy something and you get a hit and then it's like down. So it's a lot of this. The waters are very turbulent as you go, yay, look at this Prada purse I bought for myself. And then the next day you're like, yeah, it's all right. I suppose I could have used it for rent. Or you're like, yay, look at this power I am. I'm in my boss bitch era. I'm going to go and make people feel small. And then you're like, oh, geez, that didn't last long. I don't feel so good about myself right now. So this greed, this hungry machine of consumerism, that I talked about in the solar plexus, kind of like trickles down. It's like a drip, drip, drip of poison water into your pool. I need more. I need another fix. I need more gratification. I need more pleasure. I need, and so this gets us into a place of just toxic. It's just toxic. It's just, but why? Why do we have all this like stuff? Okay. So we had a whole bunch of traumas that happened to us at 6 to 2 years. And then we reenacted them into our life cycle between the ages of 8 and 14. So those are primary years to look at. And then we were riddled with fear. So much fear inside. So what are the underlying fears that are associated with the sacral chakra? Fears of loss of control or being controlled by another through dominating power of events or conditions, such as addiction, such as rape, such as betrayal, impotence, financial loss, abandonment by a primary partner or professional colleagues. Also fear of loss of power of the physical body. So a lot of fears in here into like, how do I fit in the world? How am I connected to others? Who's on top? Who's below? Who can I lure in? Who can I this in? Who can I manipulate? Lots of like icky energies here. Guilt is a form of manipulation. A guilt trip is like an ultimate manipulation. I want you to do something that you don't want to do, so I'm going to make you feel bad for not doing it, and therefore I'm going to, use this guilt control mechanism. It's a means to control, to bring you back into somebody because there's no boundaries. And when there's no boundaries, it's like, I don't care what you want or don't want. I don't care what you like or don't like. I don't care what your pleasure is. It's about my pleasure. I am greedy. I am greedy for my pleasure. And my pleasure says, I want you here. I want this. I want that. So the ultimate cure, their ultimate healing for alcoholism, for sex, for heroin addiction, is to reconnect with our inner child and learn to have fun and learn to have pleasure and learn to be in our own energy and figure out what it is we even like or don't like. Because if we have no boundaries and we're constantly people pleasing, then we're constantly negating ourself. Ourself lives here. We're constantly negating ourself to somebody else's pleasure. Boundaries. Lots of learning of boundaries. Within those boundaries, learning to have emotions and letting our emotions be heard, and managing self. Self-management is all about here right now. So if you struggle with these addictions and you need some help and you would like to talk to somebody, feel free to reach out and book a one-on-one with me, or you can talk about it in the Spiritual Warrior Support Group. And I look forward to hearing from you there. I have to get back to my packing so that I can move myself to a more pleasurable place where my inner child gets to play. Oh my God. Seriously, I am blown away right now with the play that is going to happen, because I will be on a lake, which means I have my own paddle boards. 2 big paddle boards. They roll up, but they're still big. It's part of my stuff out in the carport. I get to go paddle boarding in clean water. That makes a difference. I'll be able to go frog catching, go hiking. These are all things that make pleasure for me. I'm excited, I can go skinny dipping late at night because there won't be people around. I'm not going to have neighbor. There will be neighbors, but not that close. So yes, this year is the year of pleasure. Okay. So I challenge everybody to fill their cup, fill their swimming pool with so much joy this year. We've done a lot of purging work and clearing work and healing work over the last few years. And now's when we start filling it up, because when you empty out the emotions, all the icky ones, it allows room for all the good ones. The laughter, the silly, the fun, the jokey, the jovial, the skipping and swimming and paddleboarding and joys. Okay, so this summer is going to be my summer of joy, and this year's all about my inner child. And I hope it is for you as well. I greatly appreciate all comments, all likes, all shares, all supers. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you. And I'm sending everybody all my love and peace and joy. Peace and joy in